Alrighty, so we're going to do the second part of 8.2 today. We're going to be starting on slide 29. This is rule number 4, and I'll apologize, I still have quite a cold. So rule number 4 is something we've actually already seen, but it's just in fraction form now. So this is when I'm going to have a power outside of a fraction. The main idea behind this, this rule is that you just want to make sure you distribute your exponent outside to everything on the inside of your fraction. So in this first example, the 5 would go to the 1 and the 4. So it would be like 1 to the 5th over 4 to the 5th. And then you should be able to calculate those, like 1 to the 5th power would be 1. 4 to the 5th power is going to be like a pretty big number, okay? And then same thing on like the second example here. That 6 on the outside is going to go to the C term and the D term. Again, just making sure we're distributing to everything on the inside of our parentheses, regardless if it's a fraction or not. On your pink half sheet, so this right here, this rule can be found right here on the bottom right-hand corner. So it's kind of in a different order. So this is the fourth rule. I would just maybe make a note to make sure that you distribute power, that exponent outside, to everything, okay? No matter where it's at in that problem, you need to make sure that power goes to everything. So in the little example I've got here, that 2 would go to the x and to the y, and we'd have x squared over y squared as our simplified version. Okay, in our practice or our notes, we're going to see a lot more different examples that require more work than just this, but here's just a brief note for that. And again, make sure you have this pink sheet filled out because you get to use it on your test. All right, so jumping back to our note packets, we're going to skip slide 30 and slide 31, and we're going to jump over to slide 32. I'm just going to kind of pick and choose the examples I think would be best to look at. And then you'll have, like I said, after this video, if you didn't finish the 8.2 practice from last week, you can start working on that. Okay? So in this first example here, we're going to take our 4 that's outside, and you're going to hit every single piece inside of that fraction bar. So it's kind of a lot going on. But just take it piece by piece. And then one thing that I like to do is I like to separate what's going to go back on top and what's going to go back on the bottom of my fraction before I even start with this. So all of the top terms, okay, I'm going to start by looking there. So the number I've got is a 5. I'm going to take that to the power of 4, and you should all be knowing how to type these into your calculator. We get 625, okay? Now, remember, when I take power to power for that j term, I'm going to take 3 times 4. That's going to get me j to the 12th. Then I've got an L term there. I'm going to take, I'm writing my L like this so it doesn't look like a 1, to the 2 times 4, which is L to the 8th. So those are my top terms of my fraction. The stuff that's going to replace the bottom is going to deal with that 7 and the k term. So on the bottom, my number is a 7. I'm going to take that to the power of 4, which is a really big number, 2,401. And then the k term, it had a 5 on it. We're going to multiply that 4 in. So it'll be k to the 20th. Now we'll rewrite this on the top and rewrite this on the bottom. So 625 J12 L8 all over 2,401 k to the 20th. Now notice here there's no j on the bottom, no l on the bottom, there's no k on top that matches, and then these numbers do not simplify. So this crazy answer is my answer for this one. We're going to see some that we're actually going to need to simplify here on the next couple slides. Okay. So you can go ahead and flip over to your next page. We're going to look at slide 33 and 34. Both of these require you to distribute and then simplify. Okay. So if you can distribute, you're always going to do that first. That's what it says here, the power to power first. This is that distributing piece. Okay, so taking the number outside and distribute it in. Here, here, and then all three letters on the bottom are going to get that 2 as well. So again, kind of separate this. On top, I had an x term. It was x to the 4th. I'm going to multiply that 2, and I get x to the 8th. The y next to it just has a 1 on it, so it'll be 1 times 2, which is 2. On the bottom, we've got an x, a y, and a z. All of those just have a single 1. If you want to take a little shortcut and just throw a 2 on there, that's totally fine, because that 2 is what's distributing to it. So it'd just be turning into an x squared, a y squared, and a z squared, because again, they don't have anything. There's technically a 1, but when we multiply, that doesn't really change anything. Now we're going to rewrite. Okay, so the top is x to the 8th, y squared, divided by x squared, y squared, z squared. So now we need to simplify using the rule we learned last week, okay? So the x's match. Remember, we're going to do big number minus small number. So 8 minus 2 is x to the 6th, and we're always looking for where the bigger exponent was. In this case, it's the x to the 8th, which is on top. So x to the 6th is going to return to the top. My y's match. They're both a power of 2, so 2 minus 2 is y to the 0. Again, we saw an example kind of like that last week. That means there's no y's. My z term, z squared, has nobody to buddy up with on the top, so it would stay on the bottom. These two are going to join together for my final answer. X to the 6th on top, z squared on the bottom. We're also going to look at slide 34 here. Okay, this one has some more simplifying pieces. So again, we're going to distribute this out. Okay, so the 4 on the outside is going to distribute into all parts here. Okay, 4 to the power of 4 is what's going to be on the top there for the number. So 4 to the 4th, if I type that in my calculator, it's 256. I've got an m term, m squared. M to the 2 times 4 is m to the 8th. My n term is n squared, so again, 2 times 4 is n to the 8th. And p is going to be the exact same thing because it's also a 2. On the bottom of my fraction, I've got a 3, so I need to take 3 to the 4th. Okay, if I type that in my calculator, I get 81. And then on the bottom, I've got an m and a p. Again, those don't have a number with it, so I'm just going to have m to the 4th and p to the 4th. Now again, all of this is going to combine together, okay, into one big fraction. So 256 m to the 8th, n to the 8th, p to the 8th. all over 81 m to the fourth p to the fourth. Now again, we need to check our numbers, okay? So remember with the numbers, we're dividing them. So we're going to check, does 256 over 81 simplify to anything else? It does not, so this is just going to stay as is as our number piece. Our m's match up, big minus small, so 8 minus 4 is m to the fourth. My bigger m exponent is on top, so that's where this m to the fourth needs to replace. N to the eighth, my n term, it does not have any buddy. Oops, sorry. There's nothing buddied up with n to the eighth, so we're just going to keep that as n to the eighth, and that's going to go back on top. The p's match up. My bigger exponent is 8, so 8 minus 4 is 4. And again, that bigger exponent was on top. Now I'm going to take all of this information right here and rewrite it into one fraction, okay? Don't forget about the numbers. So I've got 256 m4. Oops, sorry. I'm going to run out of room here. I'm going to go below here. So 256 m4 n8 p to the fourth all over 81. Okay. So that is lesson 8-2.